Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I'm your host, Catherine Eardley, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership group for product businesses. You can find out more about my membership and also my one-to-one services at resilientretailclub.com. So today's guest is Cherelle Brown. I'm delighted to be joined by Cherelle to talk about her fabulous business. I met Cherelle last year, so early 2021, when I took part in the Hatch Enterprises Female Founders Business Accelerator. If you've not heard of Hatch Enterprises, then do check it out. They offer some amazing support to business owners, and I certainly really enjoyed my time there. I'm looking forward to sharing this interview with you, where Cherelle talks about her business, how she got started, and how she's ended up being stocked in some of the most recognisable names on the high street. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
You're so welcome.
Do you want to kick us off by telling us more about you and your business?
Sure. So I am Cherelle Brown. I'm the founder of Kitsch Noir, the award-winning, family-friendly Black greeting cards and stationery brand. Kitsch Noir helps you to gift your loved ones in a fun, thoughtful and representational light. We also use our stationery to encourage you to create an aesthetically pleasing and organised lifestyle. And all products are designed and hand-drawn by me in London.
Amazing. And what a talent you have as well. I know you've told me this before, but I'd love you to share with the listeners a bit more about how you got started.
Sure. So I started about 5 years ago. I was in a job that I didn't really like, and I was luckily made redundant. So I saw this as my opportunity to create something that I felt was making a real impact for my community. I've always loved greeting cards, and I even kept a little stash of them in my room, but I realized that they never resembled me, my friends or my family. And then when I did receive a card with a Black person on, it was often old-fashioned and sometimes just offensive. So in my spare time that I had when I was made redundant, I started drawing my family and friends. So if I was invited to a birthday party, I would just draw a birthday card of that person. Or if a new baby was born, I would make a new baby card, because these things are just really hard to access for us, on the high street, or just, to make an impulse buy on the way to the event. So I then made an Etsy store, and I told my friends and family about it. And then the business just started growing from there, really. And people eventually started buying it that I didn't even know. So yeah, it started from there.
Amazing. And did you know that you were that good at drawing before? I mean, had you done this previously? Because your drawings are really beautiful and detailed. I mean, I was just laughing to myself because I was thinking about what it would look like if I tried to draw a picture of one of my family members. It would be really hideous. Had you got a background in design, in illustration?
Oh, thank you so much for your kind words, firstly. I didn't know that I was really good at it. To be honest, it was more of something that I just enjoyed doing. At school, at secondary school, I would bring in people that I had drawn and made up at home, and just show my best friends and say, oh, what do you think of this? Oh. But it was just more of a fun thing for me to do.
Yeah.
And then when I went to uni, I went to the London College of Fashion, and I had studied handbags, right. But it wasn't really anything to do with them teaching us how to illustrate. So it was just more of a hobby for me. I've always enjoyed doing it, and I've always enjoyed the result that comes with it. So I've liked it. but I haven't thought like, wow, I'm talented. But yeah, thank you.
But do you find that over time now that you've done so many different illustrations, do you find that is it quicker now when you come up with a new card design? Because when you first started doing it, I suppose it must have been quite a long process.
Yeah, because I started off drawing like family and friends and people that I knew, I feel like there was way more pressure there because I
Right.
had to make sure that it looked like them.
Yeah.
So it was a longer process for me because I was constantly like looking at their photo, then looking at the drawing and being like, oh, I need to change this, I need to change that.
Yeah.
And then really worried if they were going to come back to me and say, that looks nothing like him at all. So now I'm purely like creating these characters and there's no stress about, you know, does it look like this person? Does it look like that person?
Yeah.
It is a quicker process for me, but it still takes a bit of time. But luckily, I do enjoy doing it. So it's not like a massive stress on me.
I know a lot of people I talk to who are illustrators who have brands, it's almost like that's the bit they really love and they wish they had more time for, if anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely my favorite part of the business, but also just not feeling rushed to do it, which is hard to now input into my schedule because I'm so busy doing so many different things that when I do sit down to draw, I feel like, oh, I've only got 3 hours. So I would love to do more of that.
And do you find, I know I'm kind of off topic, but I'm really fascinated by this. So now when you have, because you have all different designs, I really liked your Father's Day ones. I thought they were really fun.
Thank you.
Do you base those off people you know?
A lot of them are based on my own dad.
Yeah.
The Wakan Dad card is literally my dad, his face. And the remote dad is based on my dad because that is what he does. He's always sleeping and not letting anyone touch the remote. So that was based on him as well, but also my granddad. And then other cards, yeah, there have been a few friends in there as well, but most of them are just characters that I've made up.
Yeah, sure. And what kind of reaction do you get from? I'm sure it must be so meaningful because I know.
Yeah,
I did a piece last year for Forbes that you contributed to where we were talking about representation, the importance of representation, and some of the things that you told me about the reaction you'd had from customers. It's like it must be so incredible, just the fact that they're seeing like their family represented. It felt realistic. It felt, that you say, not stereotyped or offensive.
I would say I'm gonna go back on what I said and say that is actually my favorite part of the business, is seeing people's reactions, because it is definitely overwhelming and it blows me away every time. Like, I don't think I can ever get tired of seeing someone like walking past my store or something and like pausing and then walking back and being like, oh my gosh, that is really funny. And then just getting like drawn into the store and being like, oh my gosh, that's funny too. Oh my gosh, that looks like my dad. Oh my gosh, that looks like my sister. So those reactions and just meeting customers is just the best thing.
Yeah, I'm sure it's overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as well as selling through your Etsy store, so we kind of got to the point where you started selling on Etsy, and of course it's developed from there. And now you are stocked in some of the biggest retailers, so Waterstones, Moonpig, Scribbler. What's that experience been like?
That has also been quite overwhelming as well, but I'd say over everything, the experience has been very insightful and interesting. They all happened in such different ways, and each one has just been a real learning curve for me. So like with Moonpig, that happened from them contacting me, and then Scribbler, I feel like they had just seen me at trade shows for years and years, and then finally decided to take me on, like on the 4th year that they'd seen me at a trade show. So some have been like really long-winded, some have been just like, hey, can you stock with us? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And it's just been quick. And some are just really, really long-winded. But overall, the experiences have been amazing and I can't complain about any of them at all.
And how does it feel to see your cards in these big stores?
I just get shocked every time I see it, or anytime somebody tags me in a photo, like, oh, I'm in Wales in Tesco's. Like, look at this. I'm so glad that you've made this for me. It just feels like I get goosebumps every single time. It honestly blows me away. That is something that I'm so grateful for, and so happy that I can make an impact for people that I hadn't even thought about reaching out to. So yeah, it's amazing.
Of course, that's right. This is one of the biggest ones was Tesco.
Yeah, that's something that I don't think I'll ever get over. That was my actual goal when I first started 5 years ago, was to be in a supermarket.
Yeah.
And you know, like when you say things, you just think, you know, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire or whatever. And it's like you just say it because you just think, oh, that's the right thing to say.
Yeah.
Because I started doing greeting cards, and I always found like the best greeting cards at Tesco's or in supermarkets. I was just like, yeah, I want to be in a supermarket. And I kept on saying it, but not really, you know, imagining it happening.
Yeah.
So when it did, I was like, wow, words really do have so much power, because I just kept on saying it to people, and it actually ended up happening. So,
and was that, did you approach them or did they approach you?
This was another funny story. So the Tesco buyer that actually approached me she just responded to one of my newsletters. So she was already a subscriber to my newsletter.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, this is so cool. I don't even know who I'm speaking to, but I'm sending these newsletters out, but they work. So yeah, she was a customer, which is amazing.
I love that. So everyone's listening who's thinking, you know, like, I'm sending these email newsletters, who's, you know, not what's the point? Well, some people say what's the point, but it's like, you know, we never know who's reading those newsletters.
Exactly. Yeah, that was really shocking. Yeah, you never know.
And so you talked about trade shows then. So you've been going to trade shows almost from the beginning. Is that right?
Yeah, right from the beginning. So I had the idea for the company in 2017. It was February 2017.
Yeah.
And then I went to my first trade show in January 2018.
Yeah.
So just under a year,
wow.
I went to my first trade show, and that is where I met Paper Chase.
Right.
They were one of my first stockists, which was amazing.
One of the things that I get asked a lot about working with bigger retailers, it'd be really interesting to hear your point of view as a card brand, is that they say, well, don't I have to have like the huge range in order to get stocked in some of the bigger places? But my personal experience is you don't always have to have the biggest range. I suppose you were 1 year in and you first started being stocked by Paper Chase. So how big was your collection then compared to now?
Oh, that is a great question. I don't know the exact amount of cards that I had, but I think it was something really small, like 24 cards.
Right. Yeah.
And I literally only had cards.
Yeah.
So I've now grown to have like stationery, weekly planners, diaries, pens, all of that. Yeah, I literally only had cards when I went to my first trade show, and there was about 24. I think I had, for each season, I think I had about 6 to 7 cards each.
Yeah.
And I could barely fill my little 2 meter by 2 meter walls. Like I was like really spreading it out and going for the like posh look, when really I didn't have that many cards.
But it worked.
Yeah, it definitely did work. Yeah.
So obviously you started because you saw a gap in the market and you wanted to create something that really had an impact for you and for your community. What do you feel have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced, and what do you wish you'd known before you started?
As I said, like I started out with this sort of being something that I enjoyed doing, and I didn't really think about it becoming as big as it is now.
Yeah.
But then when I did realize that it was something that I wanted to take really far, I knew that I sort of had to kick my life into action. So I started off being unemployed, and I eventually decided that if I was going to make this work, obviously I had to like pay my bills and other things, and that Kitsch Noir wasn't going to do that for me straight away. So I had to get a full-time job.
Yeah.
So I did that. I became a civil servant. And then in this job, I had to randomly do an accreditation, which involved a lot of studying, and I had to write a 12,000 word essay. And this
Oh,
is at
wow.
the time of, yeah, this is at the time of Kitsch Noir sort of really kicking off. And I'm like speaking to lots of different stockists, like independent stockists as well. And then I've got the online store and I'm packing orders. And then I'm physically going into the office 5 days a week. And then I have to write this accreditation that has loads of words. And then on top of that, I decided to do the Hatch course for female founders. So there was a lot going on. Oh, and I had a social life as well. So that was a very, very challenging time for me.
Yeah.
So much was going on. And I just kept on thinking, well, sort of knowing that everything was going to work out to be okay. So that was a massive challenge for me, I'd say.
This is one of the questions that comes up a lot as well. People are like, how do you balance all of those different demands?
With patience. Even though so much was going on, I still wasn't taking it that seriously. Like I wasn't thinking if this doesn't get done, like the world's going to end. I just always had in mind that just do your best and do what you can do. Sometimes that did involve me stretching myself and being very like persistent, but I just wasn't too serious about it. I still realized that I had to have like good quality of life. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I was still like making sure that I was being social, but I would sometimes say no to doing things when other things for the business had to be done.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about planning your time properly as well and just being very, very organized. I was getting up really, really early, making sure that I was like packing orders before I would go to work and then going to the post office at lunchtime. So if I didn't have a plan, I wouldn't have been able to make sure that all those things would be done. Nothing was done like on a whim. It was just all very planned, very meticulously.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it must have been. It's so interesting to hear your story as well, because I think I've had this discussion with a few people recently about their businesses and about needing to support, well, like you say, pay the bills. And I do think that there's this slight sort of danger with the kind of whole idea of running your own business, that it's glamorized, like, okay, I can support myself from my business. But actually, for a lot of people, especially at the beginning, that's just not feasible. And a lot of the time, the biggest ingredient for success in a business is time.
Yeah.
It's like not a super exciting thing to say to somebody, but it's like your business in a year's time or 2 years' time is going to be different from how it is now.
Yeah.
And you can't short circuit that. There's very few, if any, ways of trying to short circuit that. So you just got to do what's right for you. But it sounds like you managed somehow. I'm still not quite sure how you managed to find the balance, but you did.
Yeah. No, I did work like day in, day out whilst I was unemployed to get the business sort of off the ground.
Yeah.
So I would say there was probably about 2 months that I wasn't working and that I could just fully focus on Kitsch. Well, I had no other choice really, otherwise I would just be sitting doing nothing. But I think those 2 months of being unemployed really helped me, to be honest.
I mean, that does definitely sound like an incredibly challenging time. But I'm asking everyone on the podcast at the moment, so talking about the resilient retail game plan, so talking about a time you had to be resilient in your business. So, I mean, you had the really busy time. But is there any other sort of maybe like one incident or something that you can think of where you had to be resilient?
I would say the whole period at the start of not knowing anything, but knowing that I wanted to get into this industry and just doing completely ridiculous things like staying up until 3 a.m., literally making my branded envelopes. Like I had no idea what I was doing, but I think that was a time when I had to be resilient because I had a few people around me that were questioning why I was doing this or asking me what's the point of it or telling me that it's not going to work or you can't do this. So I had to be very resilient then because I didn't have any proof that this would work at all. And I couldn't tell you why I was sitting up like until 3 a.m. cutting and folding envelopes. It actually didn't make sense at the time. And I didn't have any answers for it. Just that I'm going to be successful in this. And they would just be like, she's lost it. She's mad. She's lost her job. Now she's lost her mind. Like, what's going on? And I just had to be really resilient then, I guess, because I was also going to Portobello Market on Saturdays. And that was like my only day of work. And I depended on that so much. And I put so much effort into it. And I think a lot of people thought that I was mad. So I think I was very resilient right at the beginning.
Yeah, especially when you're going against what people, it's really hard when the people around you are like, what is she doing? So what do those people say now? Or do they just not say anything?
Yeah, I'm not really in touch with those people now. So yeah.
That's the thing. You need your cheerleaders, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So what's next then? So you made it into the supermarkets. Do you have anything else on your kind of business bucket list, or what in general your plans kind of moving forward?
One thing that I realized, like, it's funny that you should say, oh, so now you're in the supermarket. It's like, where do you go from here? I would say, like, right at the beginning, that was the most important aspect to me. And that was like the major goal, to get into supermarkets and to be on the high street.
Yeah.
But what I find most rewarding is actually being able to directly see the effects of my products in real life, and meeting customers, forming relationships with them, and really building a community. So I've started doing workshops, and those are vision board workshops. But I think I'm going to start doing more like organization workshops, and like really helping people to like get their lives together and plan ahead.
Well, Cherelle, it sounds like if anyone's qualified to do it, it's definitely you.
Exactly, yeah. So I've done a few of those, and I've been to like offices to help people stay organized and on top of their game. So those have been going really well. I've got one coming up in Brixton on July the 28th. So there's still some tickets for that.
Okay.
And I'm loving doing more markets, because now I'm full-time doing Kitsch Noir now. I've been doing that for a year now. So there's just so much more time for me to engage with the customers and meet them in real life. And that is one of the things that I'm loving the most. Yeah. So that's what's going to be on the horizon for me. More of that.
So I saw you at Pecksmith, didn't I, at Christmas?
Yeah.
I love Pecksmith so much. It's my favourite.
Yeah, that's such a good market. I can't wait to go this year as well.
And Sarah, who runs it, is just incredible. She just does.
She's lovely, yeah.
Just everything, including like sweeping the floor in between.
Yeah. And being a customer at the store as well, like living her best life. Yeah.
So it's something I hear so much from people who do markets, that real joy of it, like the actual talking to people, like you should say, it can feel, when you are predominantly online, it's such a different feeling, isn't it, when you're in your space, and then compared to when you're out there actually talking to people.
Yeah, definitely. And to think as well that it was something that I was so scared of doing at the beginning. Like, I felt so awkward and so weird to be standing there and presenting my work to people for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I just saw it in such a different way, as like, oh, this isn't something that I want to do, but it feels so good when I have finished doing it. Sort of like going to the gym.
Yeah.
But now I just see it in such a different light. Like, I actually look forward to meeting people, because a lot of customers that are already with the brand, I say with, like we're part of a club, but that already follow the brand or already buy from me, come to see me as well. So I just love meeting people in real life. And being an entrepreneur and working full-time on the business can get so lonely as well. So it's really a massive part of the business for me that I love now.
Amazing. Do you want to tell us all more about where we can find out about the Brixton workshop and Kitsch Noir in general?
Sure. So the vision board workshop will be held in the Diverse Gift Store in Brixton. That's on the 28th of July. That's from 7 to 9. So it's in the evening. Tickets are available on my website. And I've got some new products coming out in a few weeks, which are stationery based, and also some new cards as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Kitsch Noir. That's KITSCHNOIR.
Thank you so much for listening. Why don't you head over to the Resilient Retail Club Instagram account at Resilient Retail Club and say hello. Let me know what you took away from today's episode. And why not tag me as well when you're listening? I absolutely love to see it. You can tag at Resilient Retail Club on Instagram. And I always reshare when you're listening to the podcast. I love to see when people are out walking the dog or working in the studio, packing up orders, whatever it might be. And of course, if you have a moment to rate and review the podcast in iTunes, that would be fantastic. You can also rate the podcast in the Spotify app. And if you hit subscribe or follow, you'll be the first to know about every new episode. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.